Welcome you to media4pillar.com. So PGI today has discharged one patient from Haryana who got recovered after receiving the plasma therapy. So we are here talking with Dr. Pankaj Malhotra, who is responsible for this applause for the successful plasma therapy that they did on this patient. Welcome you to media4pillar.com, sir. So could you please tell our viewers what is this plasma therapy and why do ICMR is asking many medical institutes to have a kind of a trial on this? What is this therapy all about?
First of all, thank you so much, Taruni, for asking me to speak on that. If I can just make one correction in your introduction, that it's not only me who did that; it is a teamwork. So I would say that it is the PGI team who actually did all the work. And I was, yes, you can say I was one of the team member, or I am the principal investigator of this trial. So now, why ICMR wanted to do this trial and want to know, uh, everybody knows that we don't have any specific therapy for COVID patients or corona infective patients. And all over the world, people are searching about if they can do some form of therapy. Now, this plasma therapy is not new. Plasma therapy is basically, the patients who have recovered, now they develop antibodies in their blood, and then you separate out the plasma, which actually contains the antibodies. So this has been
Okay.
used since, many decades, I would say. And
Okay.
it's hardly, it does not have any kind of a side effect. So even if it is not useful, it is still very safe. So the first thing which you want is in this kind of an epidemic or pandemic is that the therapy should be safe. So we know that it is
Okay.
safe. Now the second thing is we want to know whether it is effective also or not. So there are
Okay.
people use that, and the people said no, it is very effective. Now in the literature, what happens is if something is effective, it gets published or it get advertised. If something is
Okay.
not effective, so people don't disclose it or people don't publish it. So that's
Okay.
why when this question arises, so you need to do a randomized trial. A randomized trial
Okay.
means that you give plasma to a group of patients, and you
Okay.
don't give anything to other group of patients, and just continue
Okay.
rest of the treatment. So all these patients will receive some form of standard treatment in the form of oxygen therapy, antibiotics, IV fluids, and rest of the things. Plus, one type of patients will receive plasma therapy, and the other type
Okay.
of patients will not receive any therapy. So
Okay.
when the ICMR did, how many patients they required to really say whether it makes some difference or not, the number was
Okay.
around 450 patients. So
Okay.
that's why ICMR decided to enroll those sites where they can find the numbers, and PGI was chosen as one of the center where they know that
Okay.
all serious patient comes to PGI, and likely that they will get few patients from PGI.
Okay.
So all over India, I can tell you that the trial started in early May. We got approval in
Okay.
the last week of April, and we collected our first plasma from the donor on 9th of May, and we
Okay.
enrolled this first patient into the trial on 1st of June. This patient came on
Okay.
30th of May to PGI,
Okay.
and
Hmm.
on 31st we looked at his report was positive, and we looked at all the tests. So when the
Okay.
patient is in the trial, so you have to do a series of tests, a battery of tests, and then you see whether the
Okay.
patient fulfills those criteria or not. If the patient fulfills
Okay.
those criteria, then actually you have to
Hmm.
call ICMR, and
Okay.
ICMR is 24 hours open for this trial. So for example, for this
Okay.
patient, we gave a call around, I think, 1 o'clock in the night that we have this patient. We have now the tests which are available to us, and he fulfilled all
Okay.
those criteria. Then we WhatsApp all
Okay.
the reports to ICMR, and then they
Okay.
have a method. They would randomize the patient whether this patient would receive plasma or he will go on to the control arm. So fortunately, our first patient received plasma. This 60-year-old gentleman who was from Ladwa,
Okay.
Kurukshetra, Haryana. So, and he's a chemist by profession. So he
Okay.
received the first. He was the first patient who received plasma. He had bilateral pneumonia, and
Okay.
he was requiring oxygen therapy. He was quite sick, and
Okay.
so we give 2 units of plasma. So he received first unit of plasma on 1st of June, and he received second
And
unit of plasma on 2nd of June. And
okay.
by 3rd of June, he was he was initially requiring oxygen. So by 3rd of June, he was off oxygen. So he showed
Okay.
recovery. Now this recovery can be because of plasma also, or this can be his self recovery also. We don't know, and that's why we need a trial.
Okay.
So when you have something like 450 patients where half of them will receive plasma and half of them will not receive anything, and
Okay.
when you compare, only then actually you will know that whether it has worked or not. But why we actually are happy, and or the patient is happy, is because this was our first patient. And for the first time when you're doing something, it is, the patient is anxious, and even the doctors are anxious, that we really do not know what is going
Actually,
to
this
happen
is
to
a
this patient.
kind of a hope to the
Yes,
patients and to the
yes,
doctors as well.
yes,
Okay.
yeah.
Sir, you have been
So
talking about the criteria, the kind of
yeah.
criteria what you look for. Can you please name
Yeah.
that the points of that criteria, what you look for?
So, so the major criteria in this trial is that these patients should have a moderate disease, which is
Okay.
characterized by a ratio, oxygen ratio. It is called
Okay.
PF ratio. It should be between 200 to 300.
Okay.
So this
And
is actually
anyone
looking at
who's
how
below
much.
that?
So anybody who is above 300, he is not very serious, and anybody who is below 200, he is little bit comes into the severe disease. So
Okay.
so plasma therapy actually works in the moderate disease. That means early in the phase of the disease. So when the patient comes, if he comes early to the hospital, you can stop the progression of the disease at that particular time only. And this is what we have been telling all patients, that if they have symptoms, they should report to the hospital. They should not come at a very late stage when possibly no medicines will work. So plasma
Okay.
therapy works in a moderate, possibly in the moderate disease. So this PF
Okay.
ratio, when it is between 200 and 300, and these patient, then we look at the patient blood group. Then we,
Okay.
once we confirm the blood group, then we see whether we have plasma which is available in the blood bank or not. And
Okay.
once we have a plasma, then whether it is compatible plasma or not. And once we know that it is
Okay.
compatible plasma, then we look at whether patient should not develop any complications to plasma, and only then we
Okay.
transfuse this plasma.
Okay. So you must have faced many challenges. The coronavirus itself is a challenge before the medical fraternity. You yourself is at the stake. You're putting your life to stake also. So when you think about yourself, how do you feel about these challenges? Well, it is not easy
No,
to get infected also.
no, no, no. I think everybody, all profession, when there is a, let's say, war, you also go to the front side and you put your life, in danger. So, I would say that the God has given us the opportunity to serve these people, patients who are really sick. So it's okay. You have to take precautions. It's like a soldier who is going to fight the war. So they don't ask any questions. They just follow the orders. So we just follow the
Right.
orders. We do
Any
whatever
any
best we can do
message
from our side.
any message to your fellow fraternity people who are facing challenges in this period? Any message to them?
So I think the medical fraternity is facing a lot of challenges, and the predominant reason for that is that India's healthcare spending is very, very low as compared to many other developing countries also. We spend almost 1.5% of our GDP, whereas Sri Lanka spend almost 7% of GDP. We don't have so
Ji.
many hospitals. We want a kind of a PGI in all major cities or in all states, kind of a thing. So
Okay.
that the number of patients are huge. The you really require a lot of hospitals as well as healthcare people who can take care of these patients. So because our health system is not geared up to take care of so many patients, and you can imagine that in Italy, which is kind of a well advanced and have very good healthcare system, they could not cope up with this pandemic. So obviously India, which has a fragile health system, there are problems. So this is actually a wake up call for the government also, and I'm sure that the government is going to work on that, spend little bit more percentage of GDP on healthcare, and strengthen the healthcare system, because even if this pandemic gets over, we are
Yes,
going
sir.
to have a new infection. It's just a matter of time that after 3 years or 4 years we are going to have another infection. So we have to invest in healthcare. That is I think this corona infection is giving a wake up call.
It is indeed. So, sir, do you want to give message to those people who have recovered, really good in this period? Do you want to give message to them that they should come forward and, donate their plasma?
Yes, I think I would definitely like to give, and uh, the reason is that we have only 5 to 6 units of plasma from 4 or 5 donors. We have so many
Okay.
patients who have recovered from corona infection, and they can be donor. And I feel that if the God has been very kind to them, that they recovered from infection, so they should come forward and donate plasma. And it is hardly, it takes hardly 45 minutes to an hour, and
Mhm.
it's so easy to donate. So if they can donate, you can definitely help your fellows, or you can help your other people. Today infection is in one house, it will happen to somebody else, it will happen to to anybody. So if they can come
Yeah.
forward and donate plasma, because right now we almost have finished, we have 6 patients in PGI, so we have already almost finished our stock of convalescent plasma. So if people can
Okay.
come forward and donate plasma, that would be really, really
Mhm.
helpful, and it will actually help us in fighting this disease in a better way.
Okay, sir. Thank you for having